there, welcome back to Spring into Math 7. I'm Mrs. Campbell. Today we're going to be talking about subtracting rational numbers. Let's jump in. Now hopefully you remember what we've learned about subtracting rational numbers. If you need to, you can always use a number line, and I have one for you here. Remember, our 0 on our number line is always in the middle. The positive numbers move to the right and the negative numbers move to the left. And when we are subtracting, we can actually add a number's opposite. So the problem I have here is 9 minus 12 equals negative 3. So the minus sign tells us that we need to move in the direction of the left, or if it's helpful for you, you can just add the opposite. In this case, positive 12 would become negative 12, adding negative 12. So minus 12 is basically the same thing as saying plus negative 12. Either way, you still get the same answer, negative 3. Okay, so one of my favorite things when I'm subtracting rational numbers, I love the opposite property because it's just fun and it's simple if you can just sort of keep it in your memory. Let's read it. The opposite property reads like this. When you are subtracting a negative number, we use the opposite property. And basically what that tells us, if we have A and B, assuming that they're real numbers, if it's written like this, A minus negative B, those two minus signs together, or the minus sign and the negative sign, can both be turned into a plus and a positive. It turns into A plus B. Let's take a look at it with actual real numbers. The example I have here is negative 6 minus a negative 13 equals what? When you see those two minus signs together, the minus sign and the negative sign, I like to just cross them down. I've done it in red and I'll do it again in blue. So now it changes it from negative 6 plus a positive 13, and my answer becomes 7. It just makes it a little bit easier to work with your numbers using the opposite property. So let's give this a try. Let's try the opposite property using fractions. Okay, so our question is, what is 5/6 minus negative 1/18? Again, remember, you can just turn this minus sign into a plus sign, the negative into a positive, not very neat there, sorry, and move on from there. So now you have now you have 5/6 plus 1/8. There's no more negatives involved. Now the next thing we need to do, as I've said several times, we always need to find the common denominator when we are adding or subtracting fractions. In this case, we're adding fractions. We're off to kind of an easier start because the denominator of the second fraction is 18. And we know that 6 can go into 18, so it's actually not too hard. All we're going to have to do is multiply that 6 by 3 to get to 18, our common denominator. And remember, always do to the numerator what we do to the denominator. And we simply multiply 5 times 3, 15, 6 times 3, 18, and then we still have our 1/18. Now we have to add these fractions. Super easy because we have the common denominator of 18. 15 plus 1 is 16, denominator of 18, and then we just simplify down to 8/9. Super easy. All right, now sometimes when you are working in 7th grade math, you're going to come across graphs or you're going to come across word problems. And it's really important that you have a clear understanding of how to use what you know about subtracting rational numbers and be able to apply them to that problem. Let's take a look at this question here. So this is titled Differences in Dependent Values of CDs and Their Costs. So on the top row here, I've got a list of a number of CDs. So here I've got 2 CDs, 4 CDs, 6, etc., etc. These are my independent values, meaning that they don't change. Then on the second row, I've got the cost, 24, 48, 72, 96, and so on. Those are my dependent values. And you'll see the connection between 2 CDs, cost $24, 4 CDs, $48, $6.72, and so on and so forth. Now those numbers on the bottom, those are our dependent values because it depends on how many CDs are being purchased, what the cost will ultimately be. All right, so let's read the question. What is the average cost of the CDs? So you can answer this question in 2 simple steps, and they both include subtracting rational numbers. So the first step is to find the difference, and I'll highlight as I go. Find the difference between the dependent values. For instance, what is the difference in cost for 4 CDs and 8 CDs, or 8 CDs minus 4 CDs costs? So I've got 96 here. That is the cost of 8 CDs. And 48, that is the cost of 4 CDs. 96 minus 48 is 48. So that is the difference in cost between 8 CDs and 4 CDs. The next step is to find the difference in the number of CDs, or in our independent values. And here we have 8 minus 4 is 4. Then I simply, step 3, divide. We're going to divide 48, which is the difference in cost, and 4, the difference in the number of CDs, and we come up with 12. So each CD costs $12. All right, guys, that just about wraps it up for subtracting rational numbers. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.